ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Good evening, making headlines first at 9. Lighter wallets. A fuel price hike is set to come into effect from midnight as the government implements the pricing formula.
The cabinet approved the fuel pricing formula yesterday and that will be implemented from midnight tonight.
Lanka IOC follows suit with another price hike. The news sends the public into a frenzy at fuel stations.
It's a bit difficult for passengers.
Just heard that the oil price had gone up and we are really disappointed. As usual, Sri Lanka is going down.
Corralling the corrupt. The government is adamant it needs more time to bring Arjuna Mahendran to book.
It had taken 2 years to give the red notice and to arrest Udayangi Veeratunga. You are asking to arrest immediately Mahendran.
The penny drops. Green light for glyphosate usage in tea and rubber plantations over the next 3 years. Nothing in common. UNP and SLFP voice diverging views on the common candidate for the 2020 presidential election.
Can't divulge our secrets at this stage.
Age is just a number. Mahathir Mohamad becomes the world's oldest elected leader after taking power from the governing party for the first time in 60 years.
We are not seeking revenge.
Good evening. This is First at 9, bringing you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world on Other Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Indivari Amwat. On your news tonight, we also have some key government decisions taken on approving investments and setting up LNG plants, while overseas, a new chapter written in Malaysian history. And also the US and North Korea has announced where they will set up their historic summit. Well, history made as Malaysia's 92-year-old Prime Minister sworn in. Here at home, consumers will have to bear a hike in fuel prices across the board, with the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation increasing its fuel prices from midnight tonight. The hike in prices of fuel comes in line with the price formula introduced by the government. At midnight, the price of a litre of petrol will go up by 20 rupees, with a litre of auto diesel set for a 14 rupee increase. Kerosene is also subject to the price increase, and it goes up by a considerable 57 rupees more than the existing price for a litre. In the meantime, three-wheeler drivers' union said that three-wheeler fares for the first kilometre will be increased by 10 rupees from midnight tonight. Accordingly, the new minimum fare will be 60 rupees.
The oil price rose today in the world market, heading for its largest weekly increase in a month, as the market prepared for a potential disruption to crude flows from major exporter Iran in face of US sanctions. The United States plans to impose new sanctions against Iran, which produces about 4% of global oil supplies, after abandoning an agreement reached in late 2015 that curbed Tehran's nuclear activities in exchange for removal of US and European sanctions. Accordingly, Brent crude futures rose 27 cents to $77.48 a barrel, having gained 3.5% so far this week, and today's oil prices is at its highest since late 2014. In such a backdrop, during the cabinet meeting held last night, it was decided to increase the fuel prices of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. The decision was taken with the Indian Oil Company already having increased their prices of fuel on the 24th of March, with a hike in oil prices in the global market. Accordingly, a litre of auto diesel was increased by 5 rupees and a litre of 92 octane by 9 rupees. The price hike by the Lanka Indian Oil Company created a significant demand for fuel from the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. The increased consumption led to the CPC incurring a daily loss of 38 million rupees. With today's increase in fuel prices, the price of octane 92 petrol will be 137 rupees, while octane 95 will be priced at 148 rupees per litre. Price of auto diesel will go up to 109 rupees, while super diesel will be sold at 119 rupees. Kerosene is also included in the price hike and it sees a price of litre jumping from 44 rupees to 101 rupees. In the meantime, a special media briefing was held at the Ministry of Finance in the evening to explain the new price formula for fuel.
The Cabinet approved the fuel pricing formula yesterday, and that will be implemented from midnight tonight. These prices will be reviewed every 2 months, and on the 5th of the next month, prices will be adjusted and announced accordingly, according to this formula. So when the price goes up, it will be reflected in the price, and of course, when the price goes down, it will also be reflected in the price. And according to forecast, for example, the price of fuel is scheduled to come down in the first quarter of next year. And when it does, again, hopefully, the prices will come down and reflect prices in the market. One of the, of course, the estimated revenue loss under the existing pricing formula is in the region of 55 billion rupees, which basically is the annual budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Agriculture. And also this sum, if used for development, can provide nearly 168 million per divisional secretariat, which we are going to do. In fact, we are launching the rapid village development program called Gamperaliya in August. And the money we are saving because of removing this subsidy will be used, and we have decided to continue the subsidy given to kerosene to certain segments in society, especially the fisheries community with small boats who utilize kerosene will continue to get kerosene at the old price. And also the very poor Samurdhi beneficiaries who still use small kerosene lamps at home, especially the ones who do not have electricity at home. All those are basically, and also the estates, because even in the estate sector, there's a sizable number who still use kerosene for cooking and for lighting up purposes.
The minister also responded to questions raised by journalists over the influence of the International Monetary Fund on government's decision to increase prices for fuel.
IMF line, the deadline or whatever is not the issue. Actually, this is something we have to do for ourselves. To say that this is an IMF condition is unfair, because, that implies that this is something done for the benefit of the IMF. This, in fact, is something we are doing for the benefit of our country and our people.
Meanwhile, being a part of the same media briefing, State Minister of Finance Eran Wickramaratne responded to queries by journalists on being able to predict future fuel prices based on the new fuel price formula.
If we can predict President Trump, we can predict the price of oil.
Gas worldwide is highly fluctuating primary comp. The good thing here is because of the formula, businesses, right, if they know what the forward movements are or even the futures, they can decide and budget accordingly. Big advantage.
In the meantime, in an inquiry by Derana, the Lanka IOC said that they too have decided to increase the prices of fuel in line with the price hike by the CPC. They, however, said the rates are yet to be decided on. The government's announcement of a fuel price hike had a profound effect on consumers, with long queues seen near fuel stations.
Actually, I don't know. Petrol will increase 20 rupees as well as diesel also same. It's a bit difficult for passengers. Actually, it's really disadvantage for us.
Just heard that the oil price had gone up and we are really disappointed. As usual, Sri Lanka is going down.
Actually, without any notice, this is like the blame should go to the government, because without a further notice, we don't get any information. So you can see the queue also. So it's a very disappointing thing.
In the meantime, the Consumer Affairs Authority, issuing a communique this afternoon, said that there were complaints of certain fuel stations rejecting the sale of fuel in expectation of increasing prices. It further said that action will be taken against owners of such fuel stations who inconvenience the public.
The Lanka IOC says that it welcomes the government's decision to increase the prices of petrol and diesel in line with prices in the international market. Issuing a media communique this afternoon, Lanka IOC said that although LIOC had increased prices marginally on petrol and diesel on the 24th of March, the company was still suffering huge under-recoveries as price hike was only partial. Accordingly, the revised price of a litre of Lanka Auto Diesel will be 111 rupees, Lanka Super Diesel will be 119 rupees and Lanka Petrol 92 Octane will be 137 rupees. The LIOC communique further went on to say that the implementation of the pricing formula for auto fuels is a welcome step in the interest of the economy of the country. And the fuel price hike was one of the main focus points of discussion during today's parliamentary session. We take a look at views expressed by both members of the governing party as well as the opposition.
The government increased gas prices recently, and when this government took over, global fuel prices were reduced. But this government couldn't let people of this country enjoy the benefits of global prices being reduced. The IMF introduced this so-called price formula. What I was talking about had actually become a reality. Don't ridicule the people of this country. The whole country had accepted that it is because of this good governance government that people are going through tough economic challenges. It is the new government that was able to reduce fuel prices in a way people felt its effects. We might have to make amendments when global prices go up, but we will never increase the prices like how former President Mahinda Rajapaksa did. For one disbursement, the IMF provides $169 million. If the IMF is to release the standing fifth disbursement, then Sri Lanka must implement a pricing formula. There was a disagreement between the IMF and the Sri Lankan government that resulted in the country kneeling before the IMF by increasing fuel prices.
Meanwhile, several parliamentarians allege that it is not legal to continue with the current national government.
Honourable President, please try to understand the difficulty in maintaining this house any further. The national government must conclude if you don't sign a new agreement. It's a joke if you are talking about democracy by stealing country's power this way. If the Prime Minister wants to, he can then establish a UNP government. But this unity is now over. The country was burdened with extra debt of 48 billion rupees when the Sri Lankan rupee depreciated last week. The amount was equal to the combined expenditure of the Mattala Airport and the Katunayaka Expressway projects. We were able to show that this is a stable government by defeating the no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister with a majority. The UNP is facing the biggest crisis of its history. There are 95 UPFA parliamentarians in Parliament, but only 23 or 24 of them are actually seated here. How can you then say this government is a national government? Both of them are trying to sit in the chair of the executive president without using their mandate to nullify it as promised. But the election results of the local authorities election proved that none of the two can sit in this chair ever again.
In the meantime, convener of the Patriotic Professionals Forum, Dr. Nalaka Godaheva, commenting on the fuel price hike, said that since the government did not pass on the benefit of reduced fuel prices in January, it should have passed the benefit on to the people at a difficult time as now. He expressed these views addressing a media briefing in Kaluthara today.
We understand the government has taken a decision to increase the fuel prices, and the excuse given is the world oil prices are going up. But probably this is not a very reasonable argument, because when the oil prices came down by 36%, government did not give the same benefit to people. In January, when the prices came down by 36%, the people were given only 22% benefit. Compared to the previous reductions under the previous governments, this is not a proper reduction. For example, in 2005, when the oil barrel was at $55 in the world market, in Sri Lanka, a petrol litre was given for 80 rupees. But this government, when the oil barrel came down to $46, they brought the petrol prices only to 170. So this is not a reasonable increase is the government is going to do. On the other hand, during the last 3 years, government saved more than $5 billion through the reduction of oil prices. That benefit has not gone to people fully. So obviously, at difficult times like this, government should be able to use that benefit and pass it on to people rather than increasing the fuel prices. They can wait longer.
Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was also among prominent figures who raised a voice against the government's decision to increase the prices of fuel. Responding to questions by journalists following an event in Gampaha today, the former president alleged that the fuel price hike was made as an act of revenge on the public.
They are trying to cancel the entire program by implementing these so-called methods. And they're going to attack all the people in the country, including the underprivileged, by increasing fuel prices from tomorrow onwards. This government is taking revenge on the poor. It's all right to do so with us, but not with the poor. That's what they're trying to do with the Samurdhi subsidies. Whatever the allegations may be, they wouldn't bring the culprits before justice. The instructions to demolish had come from the top end of the hierarchy, so investigations must be conducted accordingly. This is a time when Buddhist clergy would have been brought to book for something as simple as keeping a Buddhist statue without the permission of the archaeology department. That was the situation, and I'm not sure how it is now.
A new chapter in Malaysia. In what is seen as the most dramatic political shifts in the history of Malaysia, the country's opposition swept parliamentary elections from the ruling party that had retained power for all 61 years since independence. 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad, who served Malaysia as Prime Minister for 22 years until year 2003, came out of retirement and defected to the opposition to take on his one-time protege Najib Razak, who is embroiled in allegations of corruption. After a bitterly fought election, Mahathir Mohamad was sworn in a while ago as Malaysia's 7th Prime Minister. Mahathir Mohamad, who served as the 4th Prime Minister of the country from 1981 to 1956, becomes the world's oldest elected leader.
An alliance of opposition parties spearheaded by Mahathir Mohamad won Malaysia's general election today, with official results setting the veteran strongman on course for a return to the Prime Minister's office he occupied for 22 years. Mahathir's stunning defeat of the ruling coalition has ruled the Southeast Asian country since independence from Britain 6 decades ago means that at the age of 92, he will become the oldest elected leader in the world. Final tally announced by Malaysia's Election Commission showed Mahathir's coalition won 113 seats and Najib Razak's coalition Barisan Nasional had 79. Prior to his win, Mahathir said he intended to govern for 2 years before stepping down. He promised he would arrange a pardon for Anwar Ibrahim, clearing the way for him to be re-elected and take the top job.
So we have in fact achieved a very substantial majority, not just a few votes. Not just a few seats, but a very substantial majority. And since then, of course, we thought that there might be some problem.
We are not seeking revenge. What we want to do is to restore the rule of law. If anybody breaks the law, and that includes the journalists, they will be brought before the court to be tried.
Najib has said he will accept the verdict of the people, but a smooth transition to power is not given after such a major political upheaval. No single party within the coalition won a majority, so technically it now rests with Malaysia's king to decide who forms a government. Mahathir was Prime Minister at the head of the Barisan Nasional Coalition for 22 years, from 1981 until he stepped down in 2003. Under his leadership, Malaysia became one of the Asian Tigers, the group of countries which saw their economies expand rapidly in the 90s. But he was an authoritarian figure who used controversial security laws to lock up his political opponents. Most infamously, his deputy Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim was sacked and accused of corruption and sodomy, and later jailed on the latter charge when he called for economic and political reforms. Mahathir was also a mentor to Najib, who became Prime Minister in 2008. But Najib has been dogged by corruption allegations. He has been accused of pocketing some $700 million from a state investment fund he set up. Those allegations led to Mahathir's surprise defection in 2016 from Barisan National to join the Pakatan Harapan, saying he was embarrassed to become associated with a party that is seen as supporting corruption. First at 9 meanwhile spoke to the international political analyst Chamara Sumanapala, who expressed amazement at the downfall of the ruling regime.
The outcome of the election in Malaysia was quite surprising because in this country, delimitation is done in an advantageous way to the government. Unexpectedly, the Pakatan Harapan was able to win the election. Two main reasons for this was, one, corruption charges against Najib Razak, who was the former Prime Minister, and also the taxes were quite high at this time. On the other hand, Mahathir Mohamad said that he will fight corruption, and interestingly, this resonated with a lot of people. Usually the minorities support the opposition, but in this case there were a lot of floating votes among the Malay population, and apparently most of these floating votes have gone to the Pakatan Harapan alliance. It would be interesting to see what Dr. Mahathir Mohamad would do, because in 1981 to 2003 he was the leader of a very formidable political party, but right now he is the leader of an alliance. So he has to balance all these forces.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. The Cabinet has given the green light to the President's proposal to use glyphosate for tea and rubber industries for a period of 3 years. This was recommended by a committee which consists of experts appointed by the Cabinet to study the impact using glyphosate in the plantation sector under limited conditions. In the meantime, a number of other current issues were also taken up during the Cabinet media briefing held today.
Cabinet approved the proposal of President Maithripala Sirisena to grant permission to use glyphosate only for tea and rubber plantations for 3 years and to establish a proper monitoring system to avoid overuse, misuse and leakage to water resources. The decision was taken on the recommendation of the committee, which consists of experts appointed by the Cabinet to study the impact of glyphosate use restricted to the plantation sector under limited conditions. The proposal to release over 522 acres of land in northern and eastern provinces was given the nod by the Cabinet yesterday. In the meantime, the proposal to a new Immigration and Immigration Act in accordance with the recommendation of a committee of experts in the field was given the green light by the Cabinet. The Cabinet also approved the decision to commence the re-registration of international schools under the Companies Act. In the meantime, a number of other current issues were also taken up during the Cabinet media briefing today.
ජාතික පක්ෂය බලාපොරොත්තු වුණා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ අගමැතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කියලා මේ දිනේදී ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිව්වා 20 රිටයර් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ඒක තේරුම එතුමා 20 තරම් කරනවා කියන එකයි. ඉතින් මේ දෙක ගැලපෙන්නේ නැහැ නේද මතුවා?
ගැලපෙනවා කිසිම ගැලපීමක් නැහැ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අගමැතිතුමා කිව්වද
Yes, they do. There is no problem. Prime Minister didn't mention about a common candidate in his speech. He discussed with me later on and said that a common candidate could be anyone.
නියුක්ලියර් ඩීල් එකේ ට්‍රම්ප් අයින් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ වගේ අද හිටම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන සම්බාධකත් ඉරාන්ට විරුද්ධව පනවයි කියලා. දැන් එහෙම වුණොත් අපට ඉරානයෙන් තෙල් ගන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්නේ කොහොමද?
ඉරානයෙන් තෙල් කොච්චර නානම් කරයි කිව්වත් ඉරානයෙන් තෙල් ගන්න ක්‍රම තියෙනවා.
Minister, diverting from oil, now what has taken so long to catch Arjun Mahendran? I mean, an entire country is looking for him. A red notice has been issued against him. I'm sure he's a well-built, bulky man, unlike an ant. So, what has it taken so long? I mean, forget about catching him, at least to locate him.
How many times you question about Udayanga Veerasinghe's arrest? 2 years he was absconding, no? You are only asking for a man who is absconding for 3 months. You are not talking one word about the man who was the first accused for the big deal. We have not lost even 1 cent from this bond scam. What about recovering the money lost because of the MIG deal? It had taken 2 years to give the red notice and to arrest Udayanga Veeratunga. You are asking to arrest immediately Mahendran. This is one man. We have taken action against this man. We have already, actually we have to complain. Now have the government file cases against Udayanga Veeratunga. Still we have the problem about Udayanga Veeratunga Sadeshi because there is no indictment. Only a B report. People who are caught for fraud, they have been released. The previous government people, all have been released.
We can agree, but again the question unfortunately comes back to you as the government. Why is it happening like that?
This is what I said. It's the state and the government.
What is the government
doing? We are doing our best now.
And the Colombo Fort Magistrate Lanka Jayaratne today ordered the Inland Revenue Department to provide a copy of an asset declaration of Perpetual Treasuries Private Limited. The order was given when the owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, and its CEO, Kasun Palisena, were produced before court over the bond scam. The Criminal Investigations Department today requested the Fort Magistrate to issue an order demanding that a copy of the asset declaration of Perpetual Treasuries Limited be made available to the Inspector General of Police, for which the court ordered BTL's asset declaration be made available to the IGP. And also students of the South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine engaged in a protest march in Colombo today and demanded that authorities provide a solution to their issue before the 21st of this month. Parents of SITEM students say they would launch a fast unto death unless the government takes prompt action over the matter. Moving on to other local stories, Minister Dr. Sarath Amunugama insists that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will continue to be a part of the National Unity Government, even if it comes at the expense of resignations of ministers. Meanwhile, General Secretary of the United National Party, Akila Viraj Karyavasam, stated that the recent political upheaval, which led to reducing the cabinet ministerial portfolios to 30, left the party at a disadvantage. And with that, we take a short break. We'll be back with more news from around the world.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
In your business segment, losses in shares of diversified companies such as Distilleries Lanka led to a drop in the market. And this is the market also was looking for the central bank decision on key monetary policy rates scheduled on Friday. The all share price index ended 0.06% weaker at 6,479.71. We have the daily market update with Imeshu Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,025.09 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 256.85 million rupees and foreign sales were 216.31 million rupees. There was one cross-in today and the cross-in turnover was 28.43 million rupees.
And let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Welcome back. In world news, US President Donald Trump via Twitter revealed that the meeting between him and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will take place in Singapore on the 12th of June. In March, Trump stunned the world by accepting an invitation to meet the North Korean leader in an unprecedented sit-down. The pair had previously exchanged insults and threats. The breakthrough came after landmark talks between North and the South Korean countries last month. Trump's announcement came hours after he welcomed home 3 U.S. detainees released by North Korea. Their release came during a visit to Pyongyang by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to arrange details of the meeting between the two leaders. No sitting U.S. president has even met a North Korean leader ever before. The main issue under discussion will be North Korea's nuclear weapons, which the United States is demanding Pyongyang to give up. There has been no word from North Korea on its agenda or what it might offer, although a key issue is certain to be the presence of 30,000 U.S. military personnel in South Korea, along with the removal of sanctions. In tennis, world #1 Rafael Nadal got his Madrid Open campaign underway yesterday with a win against Gael Monfils. There were also wins for Dominic Thiem and Alexander Zverev, but the evening wasn't exactly without surprise.
World's top-ranked player Rafael Nadal began his quest for a sixth title in Madrid, defeating Frenchman Gael Monfils 6-3, 6-1 yesterday. With the victory, the 31-year-old Spaniard has now won 48 consecutive sets on clay, 2 sets shy of breaking American John McEnroe's record of 49 straight sets on a single surface in 1984. The Moroccan will now play Diego Schwartzman in the last 16. In the meantime, Australian Dominic Thiem battled back from a set down to beat Argentine Federico Del Bonis 4-6, 6-3, 7-5 in a hard-fought match. His win sets up a meeting with Croatian Bona Koric. In the evening's other match, Alexander Zverev looked in commanding form as he got past Evgeny Donskoy 6-2, 7-5 and will meet Leonardo Mayer in the next round. The shock of the evening came when Britain's Kyle Edmund enjoyed one of the biggest triumphs of his career by defeating former world #1 Novak Djokovic 6-3, 2-6, 6-3 in the second round. Djokovic, a two-time champion in the Spanish capital, has not won a deciding set this year, and the 30-year-old Serb's disappointing run continues.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
And up next, we take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now your temperatures for tomorrow may range between 21 to 34 degrees Celsius, with Jaffna set to bear the brunt of the soaring heat. Nuwara area in the central hills, however, will stay much cooler, with the scale topping at 21 degrees. Moving on to your rain forecast, showers can be expected in many areas across the island tomorrow, with western, southern, central and eastern provinces are set for wet weather conditions. Those who are in Colombo, meanwhile, will get a mixed bag, with rain affecting several areas, but in large, warm weather will prevail most parts. That's it from my weather center tonight. Up next is your city-by-city forecast.
And that's all from First at 9 for tonight. But before we go, as usual, we'd like to leave you with visuals of a beautiful scenery. And we take you to the tallest waterfall in Sri Lanka, the Bambarakanda Falls, located in Kalupahana in the Badola district. It cascades down from a height of 790 feet. Enjoy the visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.